You read the title to the video. You know I went to go see Trolls. I have a feeling I was the only person in the theater who actually went to go see that movie. I got a few things to say about it. Let me just get this out of the way. I had no expectations seeing this movie. I didn't want to go in saying this is just going to be a commercial to sell the toy, because chances are I don't think anybody would have ever wanted to buy the Trolls doll to begin with. They were kind of creepy looking. My dad had one in his office back in the 90s, and it was like, #1 cool dad, and I was just like, it looks freaking weird. I thought it was weird when I saw him in Toy Story. I don't understand why people wanted to make a movie about Trolls. Monetary, maybe. Then again, what movie isn't made about monetary value? But I digress. I will also say that on the grand scheme of things, this movie is a flat line of emotions, because the funny thing about that is that the movie is trying to be all about emotion, but I actually don't think they convey it that well. On the grand scheme, it's got some things that work for it, and on the other hand, it really doesn't. Quite frankly, we've had a lot of good animated movies this year, so the fact that I'm saying that this movie isn't doing too well and it's got some positives makes me think, okay, maybe there were some really good things in this movie that I'm not really acknowledging, but let's really talk about it. So, as I mentioned before, this movie's based on a toy with no preconceived story, no narrative. It's just a movie about characters that look like these toys that people had. And the story in itself is very much the Smurfs and the Care Bears all wrapped into one, because you've got these small little cute creatures that can do stuff with their hair, and they're being hunted down by these bigger monsters who want to absorb. They want to absorb their happiness. Yeah, it's a kid's movie, whatever. I'll get to that later. And they escape for a couple of years, but then they into hiding, and then the monsters find them again, and now it's up to like the princess to save the troll village and encourage people that happiness is something that you shouldn't try hard to find. Good message, but had a hard time conveying it well. Again, I'll get into that a little bit later. So what are the things I liked about this movie? I think there's only really one, and that's the actual animation. From the textures to the motions to the characters that they designed, save a few, looked really good. And there's one sequence in the movie where they go into a forest and we learn about all the dangers and we find out more about different monsters that exist in this world. And it actually looks kind of cool. Too bad we don't stay in that world for too long, and we gotta go either between the Trolls world to these monsters called the Bergens, and we go to their world. Some shots in this movie looked like photography. That's how nice these textures look, and the lighting and the way the artificial light hits these textures. Everything has like a arts and crafts. You can make this world. This movie will make you believe you can make this world out of the stuff you can find in Michael's or Triangle. Is Triangle still a thing? Does Triangle still exist? If not, that's kind of a shame. Any, Hobby Lobby store, every arts and crafts store you can find, like, you can make this world. The movie will convince you that you can do that. Everything is like rooted in felt or kits or glitter or just anything you could build yourself, and there's an appeal to that. I like that. I don't know why they related it to Trolls, because Trolls the doll was never really something you could find in a Hobby Lobby, but hey, I guess they thought it would look really cool, so whatever. So when I say we don't spend enough time in this world with these really interesting designs, we really don't, because we're either focusing on the Trolls, who are not really that interesting, or they don't really explain that well or really define as characters. They're like, oh, we got a whole fun cast of characters with celebrity voiceovers. One's the fat one. One is the glitter one. One's the one with the auto-tune voice. One's a troll that looks like a giraffe, and I don't know how the hell that's supposed to be a troll, because they don't look like... What the hell? I'll put a picture of it. Like, how does that look like any of the other trolls in the movie? I don't know. They're not really that interesting, and they don't really define well as characters, and even the villains in the movie, they're probably the closest thing to interesting, because as characters, I feel like we would at least know their names more than the actual trolls. Something else that really annoyed me about this movie was the fact that it tries so hard to tell you that happiness is something you don't have to find, and that's the moral of the film, and they really try to hammer this down. Like, no, you can't just, get happiness from a store. It's something you find. This is the Grinch, this is every film that's ever come out. But you could tell that they wanted to do something similar to what Inside Out did when it comes to talking about emotions and realizing that, there is such thing as ambivalence and having two different emotions at the same time. And that, putting a label on it doesn't make sense. Unfortunately, the label they're putting on it is so extroverted. Like, the idea of happiness is something, yes, they're aiming it for kids, but adults watching this are not really going to get that. It's funny because I posted on Twitter how this is an existentialist's dream come true, but it can ironically push you forward into nihilism. Like, the idea of belief that you don't believe in anything, and you just reject all sorts of beliefs. Not like atheism, like as far as like religious aspect, or just reject this idea that there's meaning in anything, sort of thing.
Are you sure he won't mind?
Willie doesn't care about anything. He's a nihilist.
Oh, that must be exhausting.
And I have a feeling if you're a nihilistic parent taking your kids to see Trolls, this movie that's trying to hammer in that you're going to find happiness inside you will only push them further into nihilism. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for positive psychology. I'm all for positive thinking. I just feel like when you have a story that's been done so many different times before, this is a Care Bears movie. Let me just put it to you like that. This is a Care Bears movie. This is a My Little Pony movie made in the 80s. As far as their story goes and as far as their characters go. But as far as like an actual story that takes new ideas and takes it in different ways, you're not going to find that in this movie. It's kind of a shame because you could tell that people made this movie are very passionate about this world that they were creating. I could only wish they would have put in a story that wasn't done so many different times. You could tell that this movie is not a bad, like, it's a well put together movie. It's just, like I said, the story is just not all there. You can tell this movie's trying to sell a soundtrack. A lot of their celebrities in this movie are popular singers, or they have a background in singing. One's a YouTube star, which I think is kind of cool. Which is kind of a shame because when they do sing songs, they are well-made songs and they do nice covers. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I feel like the generation that they're aiming for is the late 70s and early 80s, and they got tunes from that and then put in Gorillaz, Clint Eastwood out of nowhere. It worked in the scene and in its context, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. So back to this idea of happiness, I just don't like that they don't really go into this idea of ambivalence as well as like Inside Out did. Whereas it's like, no, you're either this feeling or you're that, and there's never really a mix of both, or you can never really encourage. I do think it's a good idea for kids to know that suffering is good, as crazy as that sounds. I think it's a good thing to show that a little bit of suffering or a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of edge will help you in the long run realize that, take for granted the happiness in your life. It's all about balance, and this movie is you're either happy or you're miserable. And they're never really going between the two. And whenever they're having a chance to really give this movie an edge and talk about the darkness of the world, it just goes back. And the first thing I said to myself, because I had no one else to talk to because I was the only friggin' person in the theater, I told myself, this movie had no balls. Like, there was nothing edgy about this movie. There was nothing dark about this movie. And you could tell they were really saying this is a kid's movie. That we're just gonna sell this to kids and everything's gonna be okay. when it isn't. Even though this movie's about talking about feelings, ironically, it's about talking about feelings, and they're not talking about suffering as well, or like the need of balance. It's like, no. We have characters that eat the trolls, but every time they talk about eating them, they either don't eat the trolls or play it up in a funny or do like this dumb heel turn. There's like 5 or 10 examples of like, oh, we're gonna do something really dark. Pull back. No, thank you. And maybe if this is like child's first time seeing this movie, they'll find it funny, but like, and you're older, like I'd say like mid-age kid, 9 or 10 years old, you're gonna hate the hell out of this movie. I have a feeling you will not care about this movie a lot. Go the Roald Dahl approach. If you want to like show kids a little bit of darkness in the world, go there. Don't hint at it, because without showing a need, without showing that there's stuff in this world to be worried about, and do it in a way that shows no consequence to your characters, kind of bites you in the butt, and it won't leave a lasting impact. Overall, Trolls as a movie is not bad, it's not terrible, but as far as something to bring to your kids to the theaters to go see, I think you could do a little bit better than that. I'll go as far as to say that if you see it on TV, that's nice, but it's not going to leave a lasting impact. So thanks for watching this vlog. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, and hopefully you'll find more material that fits your needs, fits your cartoon loving needs. Thank you.